Did Jesus just tell us to be dishonest? Maybe. Hey, y'all, Pastor Amo here with another episode of Sweet Jesus. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is sweeter. I'm here with Scott in the Open Arms Podcast Studio to take a look at another parable. Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 13 is the parable. We're going to read 14 because it's kind of helpful, I think, to add that one verse. And I don't know. This is probably one of the most bizarre of Jesus' parables and the most confusing. What is it we're actually we're supposed to get out of this parable? But here we go.
Yeah, I think Luke might have fell asleep while he was writing it and left out some details and or something.
He needs a better editor or something. Which incidentally is like people think, oh, the Bible was just edited and torn apart and all the other kind of things, and it's like, no, because they wouldn't have left it like that.
They definitely would have fixed this.
There's so many things they would have changed. But anyway, here we go. Why don't you read for us, sir?
The parable of the dishonest manager. He also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And he called him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do, since my master is taking the management away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I am removed from management, people may receive me into their houses. So summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness, for the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into eternal dwellings. One who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you to the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. The Pharisees, who were lovers of money, heard all of these things, and they ridiculed him.
All right. So if you're confused, join the club. Actually, I don't know if there is a single person in the universe that claims to know exactly what this is all about. I think everybody pretty much scratches their head and says, this is the best we got. You know, there are a lot of ideas, of course, but at least when it gets into some of the details, like why is it structured this way? And I think the point ultimately is right at the end, right, where you cannot serve God and money. And, of course, he's saying this within earshot of the Pharisees, apparently. If we look back, we started in chapter 15. It says, now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to him. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. So he told them this parable. And then we got the lost sheep, the lost coin, the prodigal son. And then we go right into this. He also said to the disciples, so he's, kind of shifting, but here they are. They heard all these things. They ridiculed him, and then it goes into more stuff there. But so this is about talking to these people who are lovers of money. We just finished the prodigal son. The older brother clearly was a lover of money in a sense. Like if this follows right on that, it kind of gives us a clue that maybe the reason why the brother's all upset is because he really only cared about the father's things, the money, the wealth, the estate, the inheritance that is going to have to be divided again now by wealth. They've already sold it, and the prodigal has already squandered every last penny. And then the father just welcomes him back. That means the estate is going to get divided again at some point, assuming he doesn't mess up. So anyway, money. You cannot serve God and money. But he uses this bizarre... what is it, I guess, that is the most confusing for you, or the most head-scratching kind of what?
Well, just the concept that he's talking about this dishonest manager, and then the dishonest things that he allows so that he can, have a place to go after he loses his job. People will still say, "Oh, well, he's an okay guy. Let's ask him for dinner or whatever," till he gets back on his feet. So, that's kind of the bizarre thing.
Well, and then the master commends him.
Yeah.
The guy who fired him commends him. And I heard an interesting explanation of that. So he's taking it away from him for poor management.
Right.
So there's something he's doing that's already dishonest. So maybe the dishonest part isn't as much about what he does in the parable, but what he's done before.
Okay.
Maybe. Or at least that is also a part of the problem.
Yeah, that's where I think Luke fell asleep and he forgot to write that part down.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, yeah.
Where are we now?
But one of the things he might have done is that if you're one of these managers, whatever you say goes. Like, you have been given full authority to manage the books for some person, the resources, the investments, and then, of course, the accounts payable, right?
Right.
And I think most people have heard at some point, a lot of theologians, pastors, whatever, they talk about, tax collecting was a hated profession because here are Jewish people that have been put in charge of collecting taxes from other Jewish people, and they would have a total that they had to give to the governor or ultimately to Caesar, right? But whatever they charged the people was sort of like, whatever, I just want this much. So their wealth is built on what they overcharge.
So they're getting a percentage, right? Is what you're saying? In other words, they know what it cost. They'll try to sell it for whatever, and then they'll take a percentage of the profit.
It's sort of the other way around, But yes and no. So the governor says you need to bring in $1 million by whatever day. And then he goes and says, okay, so I'm going to charge $2 million because I want $1 million for myself. What do I have to get from every person to get $2 million? So he's telling them, you don't owe the 10 that's required to Caesar. You owe 20 because 10 is going to go to me, or 5 or whatever. There's some number. So it's maybe possible that this guy has been going around and saying, here's what you owe, and inflating the price.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that as he goes around and he's cutting the bill, he's actually making himself look good by just not screwing them over as badly.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. So he knew it was a certain amount, and they they owed a certain amount on the books, but he knows that he can still cut a profit if he cuts it down, or at least break even so that the owner gets his money, right?
I mean, this is not new. This is
Just business.
Sociological reality. I mean,
Yeah.
when you tell people that this costs $19.99, whatever, but if you tell them that it used to cost $29.99 or $39.99 or $49.99, and now it's only $19.99, the psychology behind that is, I mean, it's a lock. It's absolutely, it makes you feel better about the price. You feel like you're getting a deal. You're far more likely to actually make the purchase. It's one of the most certain things ever, and it's why they do it. And even when you know they're doing it, it still works. So here he is. He's cutting in on something, and they're cutting in on a margin that they've already built up to be far more than necessary so that they can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what he's doing. And not only is he making himself look good to these people, the manager commends him. So he must be, not the manager, the master commends him. So it must also be making the master look good too, right? Because like, oh, I thought I owed this guy 100. I'm only gonna have to do 80. This is good. So maybe it's a win-win in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But is that, what's the point, right? All the details about why, and the point is this guy is thinking about the future, and he's saying the current gain that I could have off of this, if I kept it where it was, is not nearly as important as the future gain. That there's some future time, there's some future moment that matters far more than this moment. And I'm going to invest appropriately. So he's saying, I'm going to take a reduction in benefit now because there's this imminent crisis. I'm not going to be able to provide for myself for a little bit. I'm getting fired. I need to be prepared for that. And the connection, I think, is if this is a dishonest manager who understands this, why shouldn't we understand this?
Right.
Why shouldn't we, as the people of God, recognize that our resources, everything we have right now, is temporary? It will be taken from us. It's going to end. Something's going to happen. And we have to be prepared for a new world, a new status quo that we don't see yet. And we should be preparing for that. And we should be thinking about that. We should be thinking about the people that we might see in eternity who, I mean, I don't think we're going to be poor and couch surfing and we're going to need people to bail us out. I don't think that's it, but that there is this future, and, hey, maybe there will be people that we helped and blessed that because we did that, they're going to be there, and we're going to have an even better party. The feast of the Lamb and his kingdom, which will have no end. So, does that make sense?
I think so.
That,
I guess and also when it says the unrighteous money, right? So that kind of that's a descriptive there that, kind of throws things a little. His unrighteous
what verse
wealth.
are you looking at?
And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you in the eternal dwelling. So after he's been the master and commanded,
I don't know that
for his shrewdness,
wealth generally is unrighteous, but certainly in this particular case, there was an awful lot of unrighteousness going on. And Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I mean, it could mean like, the money we make here on earth is what's righteous, I guess, anything that's heavenly, right? And the money we make here is not heavenly. It's
temporary.
It could be considered unrighteous.
Well, and I mean, every dollar we get, there are a lot of people that are trying to, they want to purify everything in the world, and it's kind of like you're sort of not able to. Like, you can't. This is all different corners of the world and political spectrum, and right, like, we're trying to make something perfect or fix it or whatever, and the truth is we can't. Everything we do is drenched in sin somehow, some ways. Yours, other people's, your wealth is also, right? It's not. The world isn't always fair. The world isn't always just. The world isn't, and all the ways that income and wealth is generated are not. But it is what it is. We can't fix that. The only fix is we see Jesus, and he, in the twinkling of an eye, transforms, redeems, restores all of creation, us and everything that's a part of it. And so I could see that being like unrighteous wealth, like you're saying. So sort of there's the heavenly, the righteous in that sense, and then the perfect, and then here we've got...
It's the worldly wealth.
The worldly, there's always somebody
that's going to pass away, so it's not going to be, you're not taking it with you.
If you thought about every single person's hands that touch the dollar that's in yours, there's bound to be something unrighteous attached to it. Bound to be,
I think it has more about it's worldly wealth, right? So when we die, it's not getting us into heaven. We can't have the biggest one with the biggest bank account.
And it doesn't come with us, yeah.
It doesn't get any more favor, is not any more favor to God than the person with less. So,
and I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, right? So it's going to fail you, so you may as well use it for some greater purpose. And they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. Who's they? That's maybe people that you're blessing that end up being there, and maybe they weren't going to be, or just there's a greater celebration, the angels, the saints that have already gone before us, whatever. Like, hey, because if the Pharisees, who were lovers of money, heard all these things, they ridiculed him. The Pharisees are so caught up in their power and wealth that they are refusing every invitation of Jesus. They are not just refusing, they are literally the ones who are going to make sure he dies. They go out of there with the scribes, the Pharisees, the chief priests and elders. They just loved what they had more than what they could have. And I think we are all, it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. It's the clinging to it. It's the closed fist instead of the open hand, right? If your fist is closed, you're not able to let go of something, but you're also not able to receive something. So if your fist is closed, you can't give to anybody. You can't have anybody else give to you, including God. So God wants to give them this free gift, eternal life, for forgiveness of sins, real forgiveness for all sin, a redeemed and restored kingdom, and they just won't open their hand.
They have this tribe, I don't know if it's South America or Africa, that catches monkeys. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And they'll put a treat in like a hole, and then the monkey will get it. And I guess then eventually they put a treat in there that's so big that the monkey reaches in and grabs it and then
He won't let go.
He won't let go, and he can't get in, he can't get out, and he's
Yeah.
trapped. Kind of like that. That's what it made me think of when you said that. But when you were just making the describing of the percentages and all that part, it made me think of an episode of Shark Tank. If you've ever watched Shark Tank.
Oh yeah. Many times.
Whenever they're, presenting, it's like, oh, what do you sell this for? Well, I sell it for, $39.95. And he says, oh, but what does it cost to make you? And, make one. And he's like, oh, well, I make it for $12, And he's like, oh, well, that's good margins, That's.
Or they're,
and they go,
no, it sucks.
Yeah, right. It could
yeah.
be bad. It could be bad margin. Oh, that's just not profitable. You can't.
You got to make it cheaper. You got to this. You got to.
Yeah, somehow we got to improve that. But yeah, so yeah, I guess he's telling us be shrewd like Shark Tank, like Mr. Wonderful, with your money, and do righteous things with it. Not.
Yeah, eternal things. What are you doing with your money? There was a quote recently. I forget what it was, but it was something like, basically the last thing. I think it was actually a Martin Luther quote where it's like the last thing that a Christian repents of or wrestles with or fixes or deals with is essentially how they handle their money, where they put their money. So you might have somebody who, they're doing everything else right. They're upstanding citizens. They're, being very generous with their time, maybe. They're being kind. They're not being bitter about things. They're forgiving people. They're doing just fantastic things. But the one thing you may not ever really know, the thing that's still behind a curtain, is, are they actually generous with their money? And a lot of times they're not. A lot of times. You'd be surprised the people that have a lot of money, and you would think, oh man, they got to be really generous. They got to give more than me just because they have more. Right? Maybe not a bigger percentage, but the number has to be a lot bigger. Mm-hmm. And you'd be surprised just how stingy those bleeps are.
Well,
and then the people that complain the most, in churches at least, they're the people giving the least.
Oh, really? I was going to say they were the one to give the most and expect the most. But
No, you would think, but I would say more often than not, the people making the most noise, they're not doing, you just kind of like, okay. Why? What
I better
is your
stop
deal?
complaining then.
Well, no, yours is different.
I'm giving myself away.
No, I'm not.
I think I think that's probably true. That how you deal with that. I think it's because we rely on it. We think that's what we have to rely on, right? Instead of, think of the Israelites in the desert afterwards, they what are we going to have to eat? You left us out here? And, and God, provides the manna, but he says, only take what you need for the day.
Mm.
So we're supposed to be, what I got out of that is we're supposed to be relying on what God gives us every day and not relying on him and not on what we can accumulate and store and save. But that's not easy to do. That's a thing we have to work with. I know I do. You want to feel comfortable, I guess. It's probably one of my greatest wrestlings is trying to overcome the urge to be comfortable.
Yeah. But life teaches us to do that too.
Yeah.
And so it's not wrong to save or to be prepared or, to plan out for the future, because, it's been 2,000 years and Jesus ain't showed up yet. So, although, Elon Musk was saying recently that, I don't remember exactly what it was, but the gist was essentially like, oh, one day, relatively soon, you don't have to worry about saving for retirement, because, there's just going to be so much abundance that it won't matter. I'm like,
I don't think that works out economically.
I don't think that it'll ever be like that. No, I think that's
They'll just be greedier people at the top.
there's always unrighteousness in the system. And
Taking
so
more.
you do have to, if you're going to take care of your family, yourself and your family, you got to have a plan for that stuff. And the Proverbs, right? There's plenty of them that say this is wisdom. This is good. You should do this. So what is it how do you know you've crossed the line? And I think you've crossed the line when you're not generous. If you can't part with a portion of it, well, then you forgot that it's not yours in the first place.
Right.
Right? Like
Yeah, that was a hard concept to learn. And I know a lot of people are, I guess I was like that too. It's like, no, I worked it. I earned it. It's mine. Right. It takes quite a bit of, quite a bit to learn that, I guess. Or maybe it was just for me.
It is hard.
Especially, for somebody young that's just getting on their feet, and they're living on every penny they make.
Yeah, if you're living off of $30,000 a year, you don't need to send $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to the preacher with the Rolex.
Right.
Somebody sent me the video.
Oh, okay.
of there's a song would Jesus wear a Rolex on his TV show or something like that. I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Would Jesus wear a Rolex on his TV show? Now, does that mean you couldn't wear a Rolex? David and Solomon and, I'm sure they were adorned very well, right? But along the lines of who is responsible for your wealth, Deuteronomy 8 is a passage. It comes up every Thanksgiving in the lectionary. So if you if you have the Thanksgiving service, Thanksgiving Eve service, which, that is, Thanksgiving is giving thanks to God. That's the day. That's what it's for. But this is a passage that's usually assigned for that. And start verse 8, verse 1 of chapter 8 in Deuteronomy. The whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And, he's not testing them like he doesn't know. He's testing them so that they see what he already knows. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of God, which Jesus throws at Satan when Satan's messing with him and tempting him in the wilderness. Your clothing did not wear out on you, and your foot did not swell these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, the Lord your God disciplines you. So you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains and springs flowing out in the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper, and you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. But here's the key. Take care lest you forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today. Lest when you have eaten and are full and have built good houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart be lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrifying wilderness, with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground, where there was no water, who brought you water out of the flinty rock, who led you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and test you to do you good in the end. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. And if you forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish. Like the nations that the Lord makes to perish before you, so shall you perish, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. So,
And that is in Exodus or
Deuteronomy 8.
Deuteronomy 8. Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually the whole chapter. It's very wordy, and very repetitive in some spots. It's a typical biblical narrative. I mean, these are things that are being spoken primarily first to mainly illiterate people. And so you say it clearly and you repeat things, and we today tend to tune out a little bit, but I think the point is pretty clear, though.
I think we're in that spot in America.
Oh, yeah.
Probably been there since at least after World War II. Or we've kind of grown into that since that time.
Well, that's really when the wealth of America really took off.
Right.
And it's not you. I know there's a lot of political shenanigans that happen, and I'm not necessarily advocating for any politician or policy, but just the uproar when Obama said, you didn't build that. Right?
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And I would agree that, he was obviously using that for his own purposes when he was saying that. He meant certain things that I don't necessarily mean. But it just shows what you're saying, that we for sure are like, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
This is me, And that's the weird thing about life, is that it's actually both things, right? I mean, if you don't work hard, you're not going to have that.
Right.
And at the same time, there are people who don't work hard and end up ridiculously stupid rich. Like, that's the brokenness of the world. That's the weird way that resources get distributed, no matter how hard we try to make it efficient, effective, fair, whatever it is, just, equitable, whatever the buzzword is of the day. It always ends up that way. So we have to work hard, and we want to, I think a culture that doesn't value human responsibility and hard work is a culture that's going to die. So you need that.
Right.
But then at the same time, as soon as you get it, if you even dare to discount the way God has made it possible for you, man, you better watch out. I mean, there's one surefire way to be absolutely certain that God is out to get you. There's only one, and that is to be proud, right? God opposes the proud, and gives grace to the humble. How is that? What is that? Why is that? Well, if you think you're the best thing since sliced bread, and you did all of this, and you're the master of the universe and master of your own destiny, all this other kind of stuff, you are in active opposition to the only person who actually is the master of the universe. Right? It's like, I'm in charge. No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. So God is the one who gives you the ability to gain wealth. He puts you in this country. He puts you in the family you're in. He puts you in the age in which you're in. He gives you the skills that you have to leverage to gain an income of some kind, and the wisdom to work well with that money. I mean, you know how many people blew it all at some point because they were too stupid to know any better, or too prideful in their own ability to do stuff, got cute with things, and then all of a sudden, there's a show, Downton Abbey. Did you ever see that show? It was like
I know about it.
I forget when it is in the show, but the lord of the family estate, whatever it is, there's some big issue at some point where, he put all these investments in like American railroads or something, and they went belly up, or some weird thing, and he had put a ton in it because he was trying to like make up for some other poor, investments that weren't working right, and he put them on the verge of insolvency, right? God is the one who has created the path for you. God is the one who's made it possible for you to have what you have. It's his. It's not yours. Doesn't mean it's the government's. It doesn't mean it's all these other people. I'm not saying that. It's God's. And so are you then being generous with it? And if you think about this, when people manage money like for you, I don't know if this is still the going rate, but like a hedge fund, where they're managing millions and millions of rich people's dollars, billions probably, right? I think it used to be at one point that the going rate was like 2%. So I don't know if it was like 2% of the total, 2% of the earnings, or whatever it is. It's 2% of the assets that's their income. That's what they earn, which could actually be a lot.
Right? If you're managing billions, yeah.
Mutual funds, for a while it was like 1%. If it's over 1%, it's just they're not doing a good job of this. And then you start getting into the whole ETF stuff, where like Vanguard has an S&P 500 index fund ETF that it's like 0.1. It's like super low, and that's why ETFs exploded, because very few people actually beat the market, and even if they beat the market, they don't beat it enough to make up for their their management fees. And so here's a group of people that just said, we're not going to manage it at all. We're going to keep it like 0.1. So basically what the market does is what you get. Here, God is saying, if you just look at like a tithe, say, God is saying, I'm going to let you keep 90%. It's not 0.1, it's not 1, it's not 2, it's 90%. And the Old Testament was 10%, right? Is that a law? Is that a rule? No. Different seasons of life, different people, different situations, right? But some kind of ongoing percentage. And actually, the New Testament, Jesus challenges people to give it all away, or close to it. And then the early Christians are taking everything they have, selling all they have, and pooling it together. I don't know how long that lasted.
You got to have a lot of faith in not just God, but other people.
Yes, exactly.
Because even among the disciples, there was somebody skimming off.
Yes, Judas. Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah.
But, I mean, you are called to be faithful for you. You are not necessarily called to be faithful for somebody else. So, if you give to your church, does that mean now you micromanage your church? As I was saying earlier, that's not typically the case, although sometimes people do use that as an excuse to make sure of course you want to make sure it's not being abused, but
I don't know, maybe that's the way God has us keep an eye on things, right? If we know we've put in a certain amount, he's like, he knows we're going to be a little bit interested in where it's going.
Well, and that is the other thing. Yes.
The shrewdness, be shrewd, like what? So
if you find yourself struggling to be invested in your congregation or in a ministry of some kind or whatever, it's because you haven't put your money into it. That's Matthew 6. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, I believe, if I'm...
Oh, okay, right. Mm-hmm.
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Right? So your heart will not be in the things of God if your money isn't in the things of God. So we've got a lot of generations now that are, the younger generations are far less likely to contribute to a local congregation. And I know there's lots of reasons why that's not
an indictment
exciting
on the younger generation.
Well, it's not necessarily an indictment of them. It's also the church and leaders in the church and propaganda from the media for a long time about how bad churches are, and
right.
Every single scandal is blown up where all the good things they do are not hardly ever talked about. But the local church is still the best place. I mean, local churches do a lot more than you realize, and it's not something that you can count exactly, right? But they have an impact. When I say you can't count it, it's because most of it goes to pay staff, right? And that's not sexy.
Right.
It's just not sexy. People are far more likely to give to programs and to give to actual needs. But ultimately, if you don't take care of your staff, none of that happens. I'm not saying this because I'm saying I'm not taking care of. That's staff.
Yeah. People, the employees. So
yeah, so
it's not going to be any different at a church.
And I feel very blessed.
So sell that Rolex.
But I do feel very blessed. I think Open Arms does a good job taking care of us, but I know plenty of other people, plenty of other pastors, and they're just really not, I don't think they're cared for very well. And I don't think that if you're going to ask your staff to take a vow of poverty, well, then you better too.
Right.
If you're taking around the world vacations every 6 weeks or something like that, and you're not contributing significantly to, that's just, again, I see that in a lot of places, a lot of people, a lot of pastors, and I want to help them. I just don't know how to help them. I feel like this is maybe the best way to do that is just to yell at their parishioners for them.
Yeah, since you're the visitor.
Yeah. Well, there's
Go
that
visit
too.
them.
I haven't actually done that, but I'm talking about just right here, like just talking into the mic and putting it out there and saying, take care of your church workers. The laborer is worthy of his wages. The healthier your pastor is, the healthier your congregation is going to be. The more he's going to feel loved, the more he's going to love you in return and serve you and want to do right. And the more he's going to be able to be focused on it too. Like if you're pinching pennies all the time, there are very few people that go into ministry and are only in it for the money. So,
I think if anything here, we had over the years some good role models. So to give them credit, that we've had for people that give. I think we've had some good role models. So.
Yeah, and that's how it happened. I mean, it's modeled. You got to see that there are people that do it, and there are definitely people that do it. You would be shocked in some cases at the people that are giving the most, and you just look at how they are living, and you go, "Wow, they're contributing." How much? I remember there was a capital campaign at one of my congregations, and one of the things I had to do, which I didn't really want to do, it was not very comfortable to do this, but we were supposed to go around. I was supposed to go around and meet with, whoever some of the top givers were, supposedly. I didn't know that information. I just got a list of names, basically. So I didn't know who was doing what or where or whatever. But obviously, these people are on that list, so they're doing something. And there are these different, levels. We were supposed to aim for this many people giving 10,000, this many people pledging $20, $30, $40, $50,000 over a 3-year campaign or something like that. And there are a couple of people that, I was terrible at this and I was awkward and I was like, oh, so would you consider we need this many, where would you fit on the list? And these people that just turn around were like, oh yeah, we'll do that one right there at the top. And I'm like looking around the house, it's not fancy. The cars, it's not.
Mm-hmm. No Rolexes.
No Rolexes at all. Driving a car that was older than me. Mm-hmm. Not an antique. Yeah. An antique, but not an antique. Hey, I bought this so I could have a fancy car to work on.
Right.
But a car that's at the time.
Not something in Jay Leno's garage.
yeah, exactly. And just some of the best people, the most faithful Christians, just generally speaking. And, if you want to grow in your discipleship, giving is probably far more important than most people realize. And I'm talking about this primarily from a church standpoint, but forget church. You don't have a church, you don't like your church, you don't like what they're doing, they got plenty of money or something like that. Find some way to be generous.
Right. There are these places that are building homes or renovating for wounded veterans or all that kind of thing, there's all kinds of animals. There's all kinds of things you can find.
Yeah, lots of things. I think those are good things. I think you should for sure have a portion of it that is oriented towards the proclamation of the gospel somehow, that, Jesus-centric things. But I don't think that it's exclusively that. I think
you have to be shrewd about it.
Be shrewd, yeah. And there are people that, they just want to see us be more generous. I think if a church could be totally free, of lots of expenses and just free to give away a ton of money. If the average church member was tithing and not just a small percentage of them. Like if you get 50, 60% doing that, you'd be surprised how much money would be left over to just give away. So anyway, where your treasure is, there your heart shall be also. I think it might be time for me to depart for a yes.
Pastime.
I'm flying solo this week with 4 children, so I got to get somebody somewhere. And we've probably twisted people's arms enough. Speaking of money,
Yeah, this was not really supposed to be the topic, but
openarmslidell.org, where you can make a contribution to the ministry here at Open Arms. And, oh, by the way, see, but, you know, so that's actually one of the reasons why I have these things is that I would love to not need a salary or, you know, where a congregation, let's say it takes $100,000 to run a congregation, to keep his building, pay its staff and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot more than that in a lot of places. But just to, let's say it's $100,000. What if you could give away another $100,000? Right? What if every congregation gave away an equal amount to what they spend on themselves? You know, and they could create a food pantry or a meal ministry and feed people and clothe people and, you know, build houses for people or, you know, something, or give the money to organizations that are doing that, or start organizations that can do that locally. You know, that's sort of the vision behind all of this, is that it ultimately leads to something like that here, that Open Arms could be an example. Like you said, the people that have gone before that have been good examples. So trying to do that, but yeah, there's
room to grow.
There is an eternity.
We need to be more shrewd.
Be more shrewd. An eternity of blessings, right? It's not the now that we should be most concerned about. It's the eternal reality. And so don't hang on to that stuff so tight. All right, y'all, taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is far.